So this is what I came up with as being a leader in the church. So I thought, obviously, abbesses, there have been hundreds of abbesses over the years, over nunneries. In England, it was not uncommon for an abbess also to be over a monastery at the same time she was over a convent. Those were sometimes referred to as double monasteries. So there were hundreds of them. Some of the ones we're going to talk about is Melanie the Younger, St. Bridget of Ireland, who was probably also a bishop, Hilda of Whitby, and St. Teresa of Avila. We may have an apostle in the New Testament, Junius, so that'll be fun to talk about. St. Bridget of Ireland started the monastery and the cathedral city of Kildare. Church reformers, St. Catherine of Siena, St. Bridget of Sweden. Deacons, one mentioned in the New Testament, we will look at St. Olympius and others. It was actually not unusual in the early church to have female deacons because they figured out when they were doing full immersion baptism of women, it was better to have a female do that than a male, just so there wasn't gossip. Founders of orders, churches, or monasteries, a whole bunch of them. In the New Testament, Priscilla and Nympha founded house churches. Then St. Olympius, Melanie the Younger, St. Paula, St. Bridget of Sweden, St. Clare of Assisi, St. Teresa of Avila, all started multiple monasteries, but in some cases they actually started the religious order. St. Clare of Assisi is a good example of that. She started the group known as the Poor Clares. We talked about Deborah last week. We'll briefly review it this week. She was a judge and a leader of the Jews. Military leaders, Deborah, also Joan of Arc, of course. Patrons. During the period in the early church when women were kind of blocked from being elders or bishops or priests, one of the only things they could do, which is a leadership position, was to be a patron. So they would usually become a patron or patron of a young scholar, and then they would pay for the young scholar to go through school or his studies. And in the New Testament, we have Mary Magdalene, Joanna, the wife of Cusa, and Susanna were told in the multiple Gospels that, well, remember, all the apostles left their jobs in order to follow Jesus. Well, you still got to pay for food and whatnot. And it was these women who were actually sponsoring the apostles. St. Olympius, Melanie the Elder, and others also in the early church. Prophets and visionaries, we have many of them in the Bible itself. Miriam, the sister of Aaron and Moses, Deborah, Huldah, Anna, the daughters of Philip. But also in the Middle Ages, St. Catherine of Siena is probably the most famous one or most prominent one, though perhaps rivaled by Joan of Arc, because after all it was because of a series of visions that Joan of Arc had that led her eventually to take over control of the French military forces at, what was she, 17 or 18 years old at the time she did that. Risked themselves to save others. We're going to talk about two of those today, Esther and Judith from the Old Testament, obviously Joan of Arc also. Theologians and scholars, St. Catherine of Siena, St. Teresa of Avila are two of the three women who have been designated as doctors of the Roman Catholic Church. There's a grand total of 33 doctors of the church. 3 of them are women, and St. Catherine and St. Teresa are the two that we talk about in this course.